Good everyone. Today, our topic today is on mathematics of finance. You all know when we say finance, it's a method or a process or a way of getting the funds that is needed to be running our business. So, mathematics of finance entails all those methods or tools that we can use to finance our business. That is, in the way we can use to get the money that is needed for day-to-day running of our business. Then, under mathematics of finance, we have simple interest, we have compound interest, we have annuity, we have sinking fund, and we have amortization. So all these falls under mathematics of finance. So I'm going to be taking them one by one and to be explaining how we can go about it whenever we meet them in the exam or in any of our exam without making mistake of taking one for another. And apart from even exam or anything, all these they are needed by even not only by organization, even by individual. That is, when maybe you have an obligation to buy a particular thing in the next 2 or 3 years, or to replace a particular something in the next 2 or 3 years. Even let me just use our phone as an example. When you buy a new phone now, you know that in the next 2 or 3 years or so, you have to replace that phone. So you make an estimate of that kind of particular phone you want to buy in that next 2 or 3 years. So you can now detect, or you search for a saving plan that have a good interest. So you get the interest they are paying. So you can now calculate for how much you can be paying every year, or every month, or every 3 months, or every six months, to meet up with that particular amount that you need in the future. So all these they are the tools that teach us how to make those decisions. Now I'm going to explain them one by one and stating their formulas. So I'm starting by simple interest. Simple interest simply means that the interest you are getting on your principal without reinvestment of those accruing interest. That is, whenever you want to save a particular amount for, let me say for example, for 5 years. So you want to save 10,000 naira for 5 years, right? And it's giving interest of a particular amount. So that interest will be removing it every year and saving the principal. So that's what they mean by simple interest. And the formula for simple interest is just that PRN, which simply means that P times R times N. And where P is standing for our principal, the amount you are investing, and R is standing for the rate they are paying in that saving plan, and the N is standing for the number of the year. So that is that in simple interest. By the time we go to the service, we are going to do more of it, because actually the simple interest, you can use it to find the future value, that is your interest. You can use it to find the rate, that is when you want to save a particular amount for a particular year, what rate can you get a particular amount for a particular year? Because there is a way you calculate that, and you can use to calculate N. That is, if you have a saving plan that is giving this also rates, and you want to save a particular amount, how many years will you take you to save that particular amount to amount to a sum of money? So there is a way we calculate that too. So for the compound interest simply means that is the price of reinvestment of the accruing interest along with the principal for a particular period of time. Unlike simple interest, you are removing your interest every year, and you only investing of the principal. But on the compound interest, If you want to invest for that 10 years, you are not going to remove the interest. You are the interest of the first year will join to, you add it back, reinvest it back. You add it back to the principal and reinvest everything. For the second year you add it back to the principal and reinvest everything. So that is what we mean by the compound interest. Then when we say annuity, annuity is a series of equal payments made at the beginning of the period or at the end of the period. Series of equal payments made at the beginning of the period or at the end of the period. So for the compound interest, the formula for compound interest is P bracket 1 plus R all over N. We all know what the P is standing for: principal, the amount that you want to invest. The R is standing for the rate, and the N is standing for the N. Then under the compound interest, it can be compounded annually. When they say annually, that is one. Annually is one. Then it can be compounded by annual. When they say biannual, that means 2 times in a year. That means when they say biannually, that is 1. Biannually, that is 2. Then monthly, okay, we have quarterly, that is 4. Monthly, that is 12, and weekly, that is 52, and daily, that is 365. That is daily, 365. So these are the ways in which the compound interest can be compounded. So this is normally the formula for the compound interest. That is, if they tell us that it's compounded annually, this is the formula, because if you divide this one by 1 and this one times that, we are still going to get the same thing. But when the question said that compounded biannually, that means this formula is going to be modified. That is, you are going to input M. All these ones stand for, we call them M. So this now will now be L bracket M and N times N. That is, if it's biannually, this formula will now be equal to P bracket 1 plus R all over 2 bracket N times 2. If it's biannually, if it's quarterly, it's going to be 4 divided by 4, then times 4. If it's monthly, it's going to be 12 divided by 12 times 12. So that if it's weekly, 52. So that is how we calculate that on the compound interest. Actually, I'm still going to solve a lot of questions on that, on each of them. I'm just trying to explain them now to know how we can simply identify each of them when we meet them in the exam. So then I'm going to the annuity. I said annuity is the series of equal payments made at the beginning of the period or at the end of the period. So that is why annuity is one of the questions that I used to bring confusion, because we have annuity due and ordinary annuity, and they use the way of calculating them is different, in the sense that they say that it's a series of equal payments made at the beginning of the period or at the end of the period. Let me just try to explain it in a simple way like this. When you made the deposit at the beginning of the period, that means definitely you are going to have the interest of that year also. That is, you made the payment you want to make payment for 5 years. You now start making the payment at the beginning of that first year. That means automatically you are going to get interest of that first year that you made the payment. That is what they call annuity due. And when you now made the payment at the end of the period, that means you made the payment at the end of the year. That means you are not going to get the interest for that year, because you made that payment at the end of the year. So that is the difference between them. So they have different formulas. They have different formula of solving them. And I'm going to, I've already said that annuity is a series of equal payments made at the beginning of the period or at the end of the period. Now, when we now say annuity due, we have annuity due. So that is the payment, when the payment is being made at the beginning of the period. That is what they call annuity due. At the beginning of the period. At the beginning of the period. when the payment is being made at the beginning of the period, that is what they know called annuity due. And they say we can calculate it both using for a tabular or using the formula. But the only way we can use it, calculate it using tabular, is when the number of the year is not long. But when we have it like 6, 7 years, 8, 9 years, it's not easy to be calculating for the tabular form. So it's just better to just use the formula and get your answer direct. Actually, I'm going to solve a question in which I'm going to use both tabular and the formula together. So now, I said when the payment is being made at the beginning of the period, that is annuity due, and when the payment is being made at the end of the period, that is ordinary annuity. Ordinary annuity. That is, payment is being made at the end of the period. When the payment is being made at the end of the period, that is ordinary annuity. So, and the formula for the two of them have their own formula differently. When the payment is being made at the beginning of the period, which is annuity due, the formula for it is future value of annuity is equal to annuity, that is the amount that they are paying every time, then bracket 1 plus r over n plus 1 minus 1 plus r all over r. So this is the formula for the annuity due. That is when the payment is being made at the beginning of the year. Then for the ordinary annuity, when the payment is being made at the end of the period, for the ordinary annuity is equal to annuity over 1 plus r all over n minus 1 all over r. So this is the formula for when the payment is being made at the end of the period, which is called ordinary annuity. So this is the formula for ordinary annuity, and this is the formula for annuity due. So those are the formula for the two. Now I'm going to the sinking fund. Sinking fund simply means that it's the process of making a series of equal payments into a savings in order to meet up with the future expected obligation. That is, which could be replacement of the machine or equipment, redemption of the bond, paying of shares, and all that. So when we know that we have a particular obligation to meet in the future, so we can simply make a plan in order to meet up with that obligation. So that is what they call sinking fund. So the sinking fund now has its own formula. Sinking fund. The formula for sinking fund simply means that now for the sinking fund also can be paid at the beginning of the period or at the end of the period. It wants to be similar to the annuity. Want to be similar to the annuity in the way that it can be paid at the beginning of the period or at the end of the period. Now, how you are going to know? Once you know your formula for annuity, you've already know your formula for sinking fund. Right? So once you know your formula for annuity, you already know your formula for sinking fund. So how do you know? It's just that you are just going to you are just going to change it upside down. When they say that the sinking fund, when the payment is being made at the beginning of the period, and we already know that when the payment is being made at the beginning of the period for the annuity is annuity due, and we know the formula. So now when the payment for the sinking fund, when the question will always state it, maybe the payment is being made at the beginning of the period or at the end of the period. So for the sinking fund, when the payment is being made at the beginning of the period, so it's just going to be So it's going to be say future value of sinking fund. Let me say at the beginning. So it's going to be future value in big sinking fund over R all over 1 plus R n plus 1 minus 1 plus R. So this is the formula for sinking fund when the payment is being made at the beginning of the period. Then when the payment is being made at the end of the period, at the end of the period. So just like the same thing, if you check this with the formula of the annuity, you just see that the same thing. Just that on the annuity, R is down, then all these are up. So that is only different. You change the up to down, you change it down to up. That is just only different. Then the same thing for the end. When the payment is being made at the end, that is ordinary annuity, right? And the formula is going to be future value of sinking fund is equal to sinking fund over R all over 1 plus R raised to power n minus 1. So this is the formula for the sinking fund when the payment is being made at the end of the period. So once you know your formula for annuity, you already know your formula for sinking fund. Once you know your formula for annuity, you already know your formula for sinking fund. So that is just what it's all about. Then now remaining the amortization. Amortization simply means the process of repayment of debt between the loaner and the loanee. That is between the person that is paying the debt and the person that owns the money. So that is just the amortization. It could be daily, it could be weekly, it could be monthly, it could be yearly, it could be bi-yearly. So now the amortization also have the own formula, and the formula for amortization simply means that amortization will be represented by K is equal to unity R all over 1 minus 1 plus R all over minus n. So this is the formula for amortization. So I believe we all know the formulas to solve any of these whenever we meet them in the exam without mixing them up, without taking the annuity for sinking fund or the sinking fund for amortization. Now the difference between the sinking fund and annuity is that the question is going to state for you that calculate for the sinking fund. They are going to state it, so there is not going to need to be mixing up. Then for the amortization, which is the price of the payment of the loan between the owner and the loanee. So now this is the formula for calculating the amortization. This simply means that the amortization, that is the amount of the money that we have to be paying. That is, amortization simply means that we are owing, let me say we are owing the bank, we are owing them, let's say like 100,000, and they want to be collecting interest of 10,000 naira for every year. So now amortization will now tell us how we can split that money.